to settlement scaffolding, one of the best stories about the economic recovery in the southwest of England. Welcome to Long Rock, Penzance, the biggest town in the constituency of St Ives, West Cornwall and Yard Scilly. Here you'll find the best beaches across the constituency, the best beaches, unspoilt countryside, a rich heritage of industry and communications, but you'll also find fantastic schools, low crime. We have an amazing health service and we can do so much more to keep people closer to home, so there's good news there. We also have improving transport links, largely to do with the recovering economy and the investment that this government has put into infrastructure. And it is a wonderful place to live. So if you want to do business, then come and do business in Cornwall. Yeah. I have produced a local manifesto, and my plan is to create more skilled jobs for our local people. Now, I know that we can only do this if we have the stability that a Conservative government can bring, and if we continue to restore the growth in the economy that we've seen under David Cameron and under his team. So, David Cameron, you are very welcome to Penzance. You've been a great friend of mine since I started this journey 10 years ago. I look forward to joining you in Parliament. Welcome back to Penzance.
Thank you very much. First of all, I can say it's a huge honour to be here with you today, Derek. This man has worked so hard for St Ives, for Penzance. I know he would make a brilliant Member of Parliament. Now, we've got 2 weeks to go, and so I'm asking all of you to do everything you can to get this man into the House of Commons, to stand up for St Ives, to stand up for Penzance and for the City Isles. He'd do a great job. Thank you very much, Derek. We've got just 2 weeks to go before what is the most important election for a generation. It really is going to determine the course our country takes. Are we going to go on growing jobs, growing our economy, making our country stronger, securing the future for Britain's families, or are we going to put all of that at risk? And this is one of the places, here in St Ives, this is one of the places that will make all of the difference at this election. And there are really three things I want to say to you today. The first is this: we are the first government, certainly in my living memory, that comes here with a very clear plan for Cornwall. We are passionate about the peninsula. We care about Cornwall. We want to see Cornwall succeed in all the ways that it can. And that is why today we're publishing our plan for Cornwall, and we're setting out our pledges on a card so people in Cornwall can hold us accountable. Now, these pledges start with the vital importance of infrastructure. And I'm going to start where I just got off, and that's the excellent sleeper service that I was on last night from London. We're going to upgrade that sleeper service. We're going to keep that sleeper service. We're going to make it even better. We're going to have 140-mile-an-hour trains. We're going to invest in our railways. We're going to make services faster and more reliable. And we're going to go ahead with those vital road improvements on the A30, on the A303. The other parties might not care about this part of the world, but £7.2 billion is going into transport into the southwest if I'm your Prime Minister. Our plan for Cornwall is also a plan for jobs. There are thousands more people in work in Cornwall than when I became Prime Minister, but our plan sets out how we're going to create another 15,000 jobs here in Cornwall. And crucially, as Derek says, we want those to be skilled jobs. We want people to learn a trade. We want people to have an opportunity, and that's why we're going to fund 33,000 apprenticeships here in Cornwall so more people can get on and build a life for themselves and their families. That is absolutely vital. And I make this other pledge for people in Cornwall. If I'm your Prime Minister after May the 7th, we will invest more in the Cornish NHS each and every year in the next Parliament, just as we have in this Parliament. The Cornish NHS is precious to your families. It's pretty precious to my family, as I had a baby right here in Cornwall, in the Treliske Hospital, and I know how good the NHS can be in Cornwall. It needs those resources, and we make that promise. More doctors, more nurses, more money for the NHS here in Cornwall every single year. The second thing I want to say today is how vital our plan is for the future of our country. And our plan is not just based on words on a page in a manifesto, it's based on a record of 5 years in government. Sometimes in this election campaign, I think people forget just what it was we inherited 5 years ago. The country was on its knees. The budget deficit was forecast to be bigger than the deficit in Greece. Thousands of people had lost their jobs, lost their homes. Businesses were shutting their doors. The world was wondering whether Britain would be able to pay her debts. Now, I'm not saying we've solved every problem in the last 5 years, but think how far we've come. We have created 2 million jobs under this government. That's 1,000 for every day we've been in office. I'm off to Brussels later today. I'll be sitting around that table with 27 other countries. We've created more jobs in the last 5 years than those other 27 countries put together. Yeah. So I say, let's not put that at risk. Let's create another 2 million jobs and have full employment in our country. We cut that budget deficit that we inherited by half as a share of our economy. We're well on our way to being back in the black and not building up unsustainable debts for our children to have to pay. So I say let's finish the job. Let's get back into the black. That's what our plan is about. But as I've said, it's a balanced plan. Yes, it's about getting the deficit down, but it's also about investing in our NHS. But really what our plan is about is based on a record of success and action. But really what our plan is about is giving people security at every stage in their life. We want people to have the security of a job, but not just a job that pays them well because we're cutting people's taxes. We've raised to £10,600 the amount you can earn before you start paying income tax. That's taken 3 million of the lowest paid people out of tax. Our plan is to take that further, £12,500, to take another 1 million people out of income tax, because the Conservative Party is the party for people who work hard, who want to do the right thing, who want to save and provide for their families. But security is about more than a job and financial security. Security is about being able to have a home of your own. Now, we're building more houses. House building is up. We've got the Help to Buy scheme that's helped almost 100,000 people who don't have wealthy parents to get a deposit to own a home of their own. But I want in the next Parliament for us to go much further. So we keep Help to Buy. We give people a Help to Buy ISA, so for every £200 you save, the government puts in £50 so you can afford that deposit. And crucially, we're going to say to housing association tenants, including the thousands of housing associations tenants here in Cornwall, you should have the same right as council tenants, that you can buy the house that you live in. And we'll use that money to build more houses, to take people off the waiting list and make sure more people in our country are better housed. That is a plan for real security in people's lives. Security is also about our children. And it's great to see a few, presumably on your way to school any minute here with us today. I've got 3 children at a state primary school, and I know what a magic moment it is when you know you've got a good place for your child at a good school. Now again, these aren't promises on a page, we've got a record. There are 1 million more children in good or outstanding schools than when I became Prime Minister. So I say in the next Parliament, let's get another 1 million children into good or outstanding schools so they get a great future too. And let's be clear, security at every stage of your life means nothing unless we have security for our pensioners. And there are many elderly people living here in Cornwall, living in the southwest, who want to know about that. Now, we have, as a government, yes, we had to make difficult decisions. Yes, there were spending reductions we had to make. But we said to Britain's pensioners, we will uprate the pension by prices, earnings, or 2.5%, whichever is the highest. So when you knock on those doors and a pensioner comes to the door, you can say, we kept our word, and the basic state pension is £950 higher today than it was back in 2010. And we make that promise all over again. Because the values we want in our country are that if you work hard, you do the right thing, you save during your life, you should have dignity and security in old age as the birthright of being born here in Britain. That's what we believe. The final thing I want to say is how all of this is at risk on the 7th of May. We've got a choice. On the 8th of May, we can have George Osborne and me back at our desks working, delivering this economic plan, delivering this plan for Cornwall, or we can have Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband, who for 5 years has opposed every single step that we took to get this country back on track. Every single spending reduction, every welfare change, everything we did to boost business, everything we did to help here in the West Country, all of that opposed. But frankly, the stakes in this election have just got higher because of a simple fact that has happened during this election, which is that Labour face wipeout in Scotland at the hands of the SNP. And what this means is that the only way Ed Miliband could become Prime Minister is with the backing of Scottish National Party votes, Alex Salmond and his crew in Parliament after the election. Now think about what this means. Think about the risks that this poses. Gordon Brown, not a man I often quote, but Gordon Brown said yesterday a large number of SNP members of Parliament at Westminster would cause constitutional chaos. That is what he said, and for once, Gordon Brown is absolutely spot on right. Because that's the difference. You can have David Cameron and George Osborne back at their desks working, or you can have months of constitutional chaos. And I tell you this, when your government comes to a grinding halt, pretty soon your economy comes to a grinding halt. And when your economy comes to a grinding halt, jobs, investment, growth, business, all of that comes to a grinding halt. And we cannot risk that. But that's the risk that we face. And it's not just a risk of everything coming to a grinding halt. I'm afraid it's worse than that. If you have a bunch of nationalists from one part of the country effectively helping to run the government in the whole of the country, is the rest of the country, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, would we get a look in? I fear we would not. You've already seen the effect here in the West Country of political parties that don't care about you. They haven't even got into power yet, but Ed Miliband has already cancelled vital road projects, for instance, around Taunton. They think there is no life beyond Bristol. That is what they think. Now imagine what it would be like if Alex Salmond was calling the shots. What chance do you think there would be of CAP money staying here in Cornwall for our farmers rather than being taken up to Scotland as the SNP suggest? What chance would there be of that A303 being dualled, of the extra work on the A30, of the investment in our trains? What chance would that have of happening when you've got a bunch of politicians who are only interested in one part of our United Kingdom? So I am very fearful of what could happen if this toxic tie-up between Labour and the SNP takes place. And to me, you know what? It's not just about the money, or about the constitutional chaos, or about the grinding halt that would happen. It's also about our country. These people, the SNP, want to drive a wedge between different countries of the United Kingdom. They want to build that sense of frustration and alienation. Why? Because they've got one aim in life, to break up our country. Well, I believe passionately in our United Kingdom. I want England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland to stay together. That's what we're fighting for at this election. Now, I don't come here suggesting a problem without a solution. There is a solution, and I'm looking at it right now. This is one of the 23 seats that we need to win in order to form a Conservative majority government, in order to continue with the economic plan that's working, in order to build on the success and the growth and the jobs and the apprenticeships here in Cornwall. 23 seats, that's what we need, and one of them is Derek Thomas right here in Penzance. That is the key. So I want you to do everything you possibly can in these last 14 days to get Derek elected, to put off the threat of Ed Miliband, hammered by the SNP, wrecking our country. Their stakes could not be higher at this election. So that's it. 14 days, 23 seats, a record to defend, a vision for our future, a country to fight for. Please, let's go for it. Thank you very much. Thanks very much. So you had the back of my head.
It's charming.
Thank you. Hi there, you were very well behaved.
Yeah, good. Going out to Robert Street.
Good. I went through on the street. Hello, hi there.
Yeah, that's my
Very nice. No children screaming at me. No.